The film begins at Gwanglim Railway Station, where security guard Taegord is sent to check the tracks, after the station master reports seeing someone. Over the walkie-talkie, the station master urges him to search more carefully, but Taegord initially finds nothing. Just as he is about to leave, he suddenly hears strange noises and footsteps nearby. Before he can react, a train rushes in and hits him, killing him instantly. In the next scene, a YouTuber named Da-Kyung arrives at Gwanglim Railway Station and meets the station master. She introduces herself as the creator of a horror channel called Horror Queen, where she shares scary stories with her audience. Curious, Da-Kyung asks about the rumors of strange incidents happening at the station. However, the station master reacts coldly and tells her to leave, saying he has nothing to say to people who profit from others' pain. Trying to convince him, Da-Kyung offers him a bottle of fine Korean wine. This makes the station master pause and reconsider. After a moment, he agrees to tell her just one story. The station master begins his story. It starts with a drunken young man named Han-yang, who is traveling on a train late at night. While sitting inside, he notices a strange woman nearby. She keeps repeatedly hitting her head against the train door in a disturbing way. Han-yang feels uneasy but ignores it because of his drunken state. Later, he goes to a convenience store. Inside, a lady worker is arguing with a homeless man, warning him not to touch anything unless he is buying something. At the same time, Han-yang asks the worker for a pack of cigarettes. However, she gives him the wrong brand. Already drunk and irritated, Han-yang gets angry and starts insulting her. Later, Han-yang boards a train to return home, but he is shocked to see the same strange woman again. At the next station, all passengers get off, leaving only Han-yang, an old man, and the woman in the coach. Suddenly, the woman starts hitting her head against the door even harder, which terrifies both Han-yang and the old man, forcing them to move to another coach. At that moment, Han-yang receives a video on his phone. When he plays it, he sees a shocking clip. A woman committing suicide at Gwanglim Station, and she looks exactly like the one on the train. Horrified, Han-yang looks around and sees the old man also starting to hit his head. The woman slowly comes closer, still smashing her head against the door again and again. Suddenly, the lights go out. In the darkness, Han-yang notices that the old man has disappeared. Then he sees the woman hitting her head so hard that the door finally breaks and her severed head falls off. The head rolls and then looks at him with a creepy smile while her body continues to move toward him. Just then, Han-yang suddenly wakes up in the train, realizing it was just a nightmare, and notices that the coach is completely empty. Feeling scared, he gets down at the next stop, which is Gwanglim Station. As he steps onto the platform, he hears an announcement saying that the next train will pass through the station without stopping. While looking around, he notices a sealed, broken door and recalls the video from his nightmare, realizing that the woman died at this very station. Suddenly, he hears a strange noise. When he turns around, he sees the same woman again, hitting her head against a wall, terrifying Han-yang even more. Then the woman moved closer to him. Before he can escape, she suddenly pushes him onto the railway tracks. Moments later, a fast-moving train passes through the station, killing him. After finishing the story, the station master tells Da-Kyung that the incident was officially ruled as a suicide. Da-Kyung says that the story was very intriguing, but the station master, clearly annoyed, tells her that she got what she came for and asks her to leave. Da-Kyung then asks if she can come again sometime, but the station master firmly refuses and tells her never to come back. Back at the office, Da-Kyung is greeted by the producer Woo-jin, whom she secretly has a crush on. He asks her if she managed to get a story. Da-Kyung says yes, and explains that she found a story about a railway suicide that happened a few years ago at Gwanglim Station. Just then, another YouTuber named Yedi, who runs a beauty channel, interrupts them. She starts mocking Da-Kyung, saying that her channel has been losing subscribers after her last upload. This clearly upsets Da-Kyung, but Woo-jin steps in and supports her. He tells Yedi that beauty and horror content are completely different, and that many people are actually interested in simple, dark, and unusual stories. Frustrated by Yedi's comments, Da-Kyung goes back to the station master and asks him for another, even stronger horror story. The station master says he checked her channel and noticed that her videos now have fewer than 100 views. Da-Kyung replies that her videos used to get around 100,000 views, but beauty YouTubers became more popular, and her horror content lost attention. Seeing that Da-Kyung is upset, the station master decides to tell her another story. This story begins on a train with a girl named Hejin, who is traveling home. During the journey, she notices a strange woman with bandages on her face staring at her and smiling in a creepy way. Feeling uncomfortable, Hejin moves toward the train door. There, she unexpectedly meets her old teacher, whom she once had a crush on. But at the next station, the teacher's girlfriend boards the train, and he introduces her to Hejin. This leaves Hejin feeling hurt and awkward, so she decides to get off at the next stop, which is Gwanglim Station. Moments later, the same creepy woman with bandages also gets off the train. While waiting for the next train, the creepy woman looks at Hejin and says that her nose is very pretty. Hejin politely thanks her, but the woman keeps repeating the same thing again and again. This makes Hejin uncomfortable, especially when she notices that the woman is holding a cup filled with some kind of liquid. Terrified, Hejin moves to another door, trying to stay away from the strange woman. But when she looks back, the woman is slowly getting closer. Hejin quickly takes out her phone and tries to record her, but shockingly, the camera doesn't capture the woman at all. When she looks up again, the woman is even closer, and now Hejin realizes that the liquid she is holding is actually acid. Frightened, Hejin runs and the woman starts chasing her. She manages to escape into a restroom and locks herself inside. Shaking with fear, she calls the police. She tells them that she is at a subway station and that someone is chasing her with acid. The officer asks for her exact location, and she says she is in the women's restroom at Gwanglim Station, begging them to come quickly. The officer then asks her to stay calm and describe the women. Shocked, Hejin asks how the officer knew it was a woman when she never mentioned it. Then suddenly, the voice on the call starts repeating, "Your nose is so pretty. Your face is so pretty." Hejin freezes in fear. She slowly looks up and sees the creepy woman holding the cup of acid. The door suddenly swings open. The woman reveals her face. She has no nose, and before Hejin can react, she throws the acid at her, killing her. With that, the station master finishes his second story. Later, Da-Kyung goes to Gwanglim Station and shoots a new video, where she narrates the terrifying stories she heard from the station master. After editing, she shows the final video to Ujin and asks for his opinion. Ujin watches it and tells her that the horror queen is back. He says the concept is interesting, and overall, the video is really good. Hearing this, Da-Kyung feels happy and thanks him. But suddenly, Ujin notices something strange in the footage. He looks closely at a vending machine in the background. Confused, he asks if she saw that. When Da-Kyung looks again, Ujin points out that it looks like there is a person inside the vending machine. Soon after, Da-Kyung shows the strange image to the station master and asks if it looks like a person. She wonders if it could be a ghost and if anything like this has ever been captured before. Instead of answering directly, the station master changes the topic. He mentions that her video views have increased and suggests they celebrate. He pours her a drink, and while they sit together, he begins telling another story. He then begins the third story. He talks about a man named Kim, who once lived a normal life like any office worker. In the beginning, everything was fine, but slowly things started to fall apart. He lost his stable job, then his family, and eventually even his self-control. Step by step, his life kept getting worse. In the end, he became homeless and started living inside Gwanglim Station. This is the same homeless man we saw in the first story. Later, Kim goes to the convenience store to buy food, but he doesn't have enough money to buy anything. Afterward, he heads to a vending machine in Gwanglim Station and starts searching underneath it. There, he finds a few coins and one distinct red coin. He keeps the red coin, but later in the washroom, another homeless man demands money from him. Kim gives up the money he has, and the other homeless, seeing the red coin is of no use, gives it back to him. Later, Kim sits inside Gwanglim Station, angry because he has no money left. Across the platform, he sees a drunk man and shouts at him. Then he hears a sound from the vending machine and notices it only has red canned drinks, which can only be bought with a red coin. He puts the red coin he has into the machine, takes a can and opens it, but it's empty, frustrating him even more. Suddenly, he realizes the drunk man has vanished, leaving only his clothes on the floor. Kim goes over, finds 2 red coins along with the clothes, and takes them to the washroom. Inside, he checks the wallets and the clothes and finds money. He keeps the money and the 2 red coins, wears the drunk man's clothes, and goes to the convenience store to eat some food. After eating, Kim goes back to the vending machine to get another drink. He puts in a red coin and takes a can. Just then, another homeless man shows up. Without thinking, Kim opens the can and points it toward him. At first, nothing happens, but suddenly the man's body starts disappearing piece by piece. Within moments, he is completely gone, as if he has been pulled inside the vending machine. Shocked and scared, then he notices the man's clothes lying on the ground, and near them, he finds 3 red coins. Without hesitation, Kim takes red coins and the money from the man's wallet. From that point on, Kim starts repeating the same act. He takes a red can from the vending machine, opens it in front of people, and watches as they disappear and get trapped inside the machine. Afterward, he collects the red coins and money from their belongings. Over time, He becomes used to it and even starts enjoying this twisted routine, doing it again and again without hesitation. But one night, after drinking too much, Kim sees something shocking on the other side of the platform. A homeless man who looks exactly like him, holding a red can. Realizing something is wrong, Kim tries to stop him. However, before he can do anything, the other version of Kim opens the can in front of him. Suddenly, Kim's body's disappearing, just like the others. He gets pulled into the vending machine, screaming for help. Inside, he is crushed and his life comes to a horrifying end. With that, the station master finishes his third story, but he notices that Da-Kyung has fallen asleep while listening. In the next scene, Woo-jin proposed Da-Kyung, which wakes Da-Kyung from the dream in the office. She sees Woo-jin and Yeri talking together. To make Da-Kyung jealous, Yeri acts very close to Woo-jin and even touches him while speaking. Feeling frustrated, Da-Kyung checks her channel's ranking and sees that she is now in third place, while Yeri is ahead of her in second place. Angered by Yeri, Da-Kyung goes back to the station master and vents her frustration, saying that Yeri always looks down on her. The station master calmly asks what exactly she dislikes about her. Da-Kyung replies that she hates how Yeri gains popularity through lies. Hearing this, the station master warns her that people often chase what they don't have, and in doing so, they risk losing what they already have. Then, he tells Da-Kyung that he doesn't have much time left due to his sickness, and maybe it's time for her to stop coming to the station as well. Later that night, Da-Kyung arrives at the office and finds all the lights turned off. Suddenly, everyone surprises her with a cake and congratulates her for crossing 1 million views. Woo-jin also personally congratulates her, which makes Da-Kyung very happy. Seeing this, Yeri becomes jealous. In the next scene, Da-Kyung reads the comments on her video and notices one strange message saying that everything in the video is true and warning people never to go there. Curious, she tracks down the person who posted it and decides to meet her. When they meet, the girl nervously tells Da-Kyung to take down all her videos. Confused, Da-Kyung asks why. The girl says that these stories should not be known to the world and reveals that she personally experienced something at the convenience store in Gwanglim Station. And it turns out she is the same girl who worked at the convenience store in the first story. Shocked, Da-Kyung asks what she means. The girl then brings up the Church of Gwanglim. When Da-Kyung asks if it's the cult that disappeared decades ago, the girl confirms it and explains that the station was built on top of the church chapel, which is why so many strange things happen there. As Da-Kyung struggles to understand, the girl suddenly removes her glasses, revealing only one eye, and warns Da-Kyung not to go to the station, saying that if she does, she will die, and begs her to delete all the videos. But suddenly, the girl notices a strange masked man nearby. Terrified, she immediately runs away, leaving Da-Kyung confused and shaken. Later, Da-Kyung starts researching about the Gwanglim Church mass suicide. She discovers that 50 years ago, on October 3rd, 1973, around 40 followers of the Church of Gwanglim committed mass suicide at a chapel in Seoul. Realizing that the station was built on top of that same place, she becomes deeply disturbed. Shaken by everything, she goes to the office planning to delete her YouTube channel, but suddenly she hears a noise and goes to check. There, she sees Yeri kissing a man. Da-Kyung assumes the man is Woo-jin. Heartbroken and upset, she quietly leaves the office. The next day, Woo-jin asks her out for dinner, saying he couldn't meet her the previous night because he was busy outside, but Da-Kyung doesn't believe him. Thinking he is lying and remembering what she saw, she becomes angry. She coldly refuses his offer and says she would rather focus on work than spend time with someone like him. She then walks away, leaving Woo-jin confused about her sudden behavior. Later, Da-Kyung returns to the station master and asks for another story, saying she needs something more powerful. The station master refuses, explaining that his health has become worse and even the hospital advised him to stop working. But Da-Kyung insists and begs for one last story. When he points out that her videos are already popular, she admits she wants even more fame and recognition. Frustrated and desperate, she loses her temper and lashes out at him. Then she notices a blood-stained tissue on the table and coldly tells him that he doesn't have much time left anyway, so telling one more story wouldn't make any difference, showing how desperate and insensitive she has become for success. The station master begins his fourth story, saying there was once someone just like Da-Kyung, someone who lived only for attention. He reveals that the story is about Yeri. The beauty influencer Yeri is shown doing a live stream inside a train. After finishing, she casually touches a handle covered with a strange sticky liquid, but simply wipes it off. Later at the office, she continues her usual behavior and mocks Da-Kyung about her falling subscriber count. Later, Woo-jin Woojin tells her not to be too harsh on Da-Kyung, Yedi brushes it off, saying that's how they push each other. But Woojin points out that only Da-Kyung seems affected by it. Yedi laughs it off, but suddenly Woojin notices that Yedi's nose starts bleeding. Later, when Yedi goes to the washroom to clean her nosebleed, she notices that her hand has developed an infection. Concerned, she visits a hospital where the doctor examines it and prescribes a medicated cream. Later, while traveling on a train, Yedi applies the cream to her infected hand and carefully bandages it. Later at the station, Yedi sees Da-Kyung going to meet the station master again for another story. As usual, Yedi starts insulting her, trying to bring her down, but Da-Kyung stays silent. During this, Da-Kyung notices that Yedi's nosebleed has become much worse. Worried, Yedi rushes to the washroom and checks herself. She sees that the infection on her hand has spread badly to her other hand and even her face, with small plant-like growths forming on her skin. Suddenly, Yedi wakes up. It was all just a nightmare. She finds herself back in the shooting room. As she steps out, she sees everyone celebrating with a cake, congratulating Da-Kyung for reaching 1 million views. After that, Yedi is traveling on a train when she suddenly gets another nosebleed. This time, she also notices that the infection on her hand is getting worse, just like in her nightmare. Panicking, she quickly gets down at the next stop, which is Gwanglim Station. She rushes into the washroom and checks herself, only to realize that the infection is spreading all over her body. Small plant-like growths begin appearing on her skin. Within moments, these grow rapidly into plants and flowers covering her entire body. Unable to stop it, Yedi collapses as the growth takes over, leading to her death in a horrifying way. With that, the station master completes his fourth story. Back at the office, 2 police officers arrive and ask about Da-Kyung. Woojin is confused and asks what this is about. The officers say they came after watching her YouTube videos, raising concern about her involvement with the strange incidents. Meanwhile, at the station, Da-Kyung confronts the station master about what she discovered. She tells him that she knows about the Church of Gwanglim and how the station was built on top of its chapel. She explains that 40 followers supposedly committed mass suicide for their leader's immortality, and some even believe that the leader is still alive. She asks him if it's true. The station master calmly responds, asking what if it really is. Determined, Da-Kyung says she wants to investigate this organization further. The station master tells her that if she truly wants answers, she can meet the leader himself. He explains that at exactly 3:34 a.m. on Friday, a train will arrive, and if she boards it, she will be able to meet him. So Da-Kyung goes to Gwanglim Station and waits for the train. As she sits there alone, she suddenly hears a cat meowing. Moments later, the station lights turn on, revealing a man sitting quietly with a cat in a bag. It is Taegor, the security guard who died at the beginning of the film. At exactly 3:34 a.m., the train arrives. Frightened by Taegor's presence, Da-Kyung quickly boards the train. As it starts moving, she looks back and sees Taegor still sitting on the platform. She turns around and finds him sitting right in front of her inside the train. Terrified, Da-Kyung runs from one coach to another, trying to escape while Taegor silently follows her. Just then, the power suddenly cuts off. Da-Kyung quickly turns on her phone torch and sees Taegor standing with his back facing her. Suddenly, his severed head drops into the bag he is carrying and his body starts running toward her. Terrified, Da-Kyung runs as fast as she can. Just then, the train suddenly stops at a station. She quickly rushes out of the train while the headless Taegor remains inside. As the doors close, the train starts moving again. At the station, Da-Kyung sees a shadowy figure walking in the steps. Suddenly, she sees a train in front of her, and she notices a walkie-talkie lying on the ground. Meanwhile, at the office, Woojin is speaking with the police officers. He learns something shocking. The station master voice recording heard in Da-Kyung's videos is not the real one. The officers explain that although Da-Kyung claimed she interviewed the station master and even uploaded the recording, the actual station master is a completely different person. Confused, Woojin wonders who she has been talking to all this time. The officer then reveals the truth. The man Da-Kyung has been interviewing is someone who went missing 3 years ago. Meanwhile, Da-Kyung picks up the walkie-talkie and says, "Hello," the station master replies. He tells her that from the very first moment he saw her, he knew her curiosity would bring her to this place. He says she was always interested in the scary stories, but she never thought about him, who he really is and why he has been telling her these stories. Then he tells her that the final story he is going to share is his own. The station master begins his story from 3 years ago. One night, he tells the security guard Taegor that he saw someone on the railway tracks and asks him to go and check. Taegor goes down to inspect the tracks, while the station master stays in the monitor room and speaks to him through the walkie-talkie. Taegor says he doesn't see anyone, but the station master insists and tells him to go further inside. Taegor agrees, but after that, he suddenly dies when a train hits him. After this, the station master hears a strange voice coming through the walkie-talkie. Worried, he goes down to the tracks himself to look for Taegor. As he walks, he feels the place becoming strangely hot and calls out for him. But suddenly, when he turns around, he sees a train right in front of him. When the station master gets inside the train to check, he sees someone trying to open a door. The station master opens the door, enters the driver's cabin, and suddenly the train starts moving on its own. The station master tries to stop it but fails, so he escapes into another coach. Inside, he sees strange writings made with blood on the windows, terrifying him. The train starts heating up so much that even his shoes begin to melt, and he hears people violently knocking on the windows. In panic, he pulls the emergency brake, and the train suddenly stops, returning to normal. Then, he hears Taegor's voice on the walkie-talkie. The station master sees a horrifying sight, Taegor's severed head being held by a cult leader. Suddenly, the train starts moving again. As the station master tries to escape, hands suddenly grabs him from behind, making him fall. Then, many decomposed hands appear and pull him away, dragging him inside and killing him. The station master tells Da-Kyung that the station was once a cult chapel and says he can help her meet the leader. Suddenly, the train doors close. When Da-Kyung tries to open them, she sees the station master standing outside. He calmly says he enjoyed their time and will miss her. As the train starts moving, Da-Kyung sees him transform into a version of herself, smiling creepily. Soon, she goes through the same terrifying fate as the station master. Later, Uzin comes to Gwanglim Station looking for her. He hears a strange sound from a vending machine, and suddenly Da-Kyung appears. Relieved, he asks why she didn't answer his calls, but Da-Kyung just smiles in a creepy way. In reality, this is not the real Da-Kyung. It is the station master who has transformed into her and asks him if he wants to hear an interesting story, hinting that the horror is not over, and the movie ends. And that wraps up Ghost Train. If you enjoyed this recap, don't forget to like, share, and subscribe, and hit the bell for more chilling movie stories. Until next time, stay curious and stay safe.